Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Tagline, the podcast where I, the Meerkat Monarch, and my co-host.
Gene the Angry Penguin, and today we have a special guest with us, Artivous Ira of the Unsolicited Opinions podcast on the League of Evil channel,
A little
Hello,
cross,
hello.
because
a little bit
uh,
of incestual, crossbreeding of the of the podcast.
Just how to turn me on.
Yeah, I know, buddy.
and
Sorry.
one of the reasons one of the reasons Art is with us, other than to hit on Jan apparently, is because they are going to be talking about a genre or a little history lesson, if you will, in Hong Kong cinema and action movies. That's a
uh,
little bit out of my wheelhouse. I'm more of a modern film man.
yeah, and the fact that you said we're gonna give you a history lesson, that kind of entails that I've prepared for this, which I did kind of, but I cheated a bit because I watched Cannonball Run, which is technically a Hong Kong classic, but it's not really a.
keep telling yourself that, Jan.
It stars Jackie Chan, dude.
You just wanted to watch Cannonball Run, and that's
Yeah.
okay.
It's like me saying I watched the American version of The Forest the other day, and I said claiming to watch some J horror.
Well, anyways, so you have no real experience with Hong Kong movies, right?
Not in. I have some, but I watch them when somebody tells me to watch them. I'm not really your traditional fan of them.
Right.
I can't sit there and name
So,
off things or give you any of the history or anything
right.
like that.
So here's your first fun factoid. It was considered unmanly, um, in Asia to do movies when movies were basically a new thing,
Yeah, early
and they were
on.
new technology.
Yeah.
So the first kung fu movie action stars were actually women. A lot of times women playing men.
Yeah, which is kind of it's an astounding fact every time that you hear it, but it's kind of cool, which is kind of counter to the tradition of Europe where most parts in acting
Yeah,
were
where
men.
men would play all the roles, but
Yeah,
it's interesting to see those, like, look at some of those little movies and whatnot, and they weren't amazing because they were still experimenting with the art and what they were trying to do and whatnot, but you could see the beginnings of things, and that's why you see a lot of women show up in 60s and 70s kung fu movies, older women that can fight because they were paying homage to those actresses that paved the way.
yeah, and a lot of them were the actual actresses who paved the way as well in
Yeah,
the older women
because why not give them
roles.
work?
Yeah, and the thing is that uh, the two main people everybody knows from Hong Kong movies are Bruce Lee and Jackie Chan. Everybody knows about these two, and to
They kind of know.
yeah, they kind of know about him. But the thing is that I find kind of cool is that they have a similar sort of story once they reached success that they tried to make it in the U.S. and then failed the first time that they tried. Uh,
Hmm.
which
That will always rub me raw about Kung Fu. I can't even
yeah,
watch that series.
no, I get I oh yeah, and the early wasn't it early Green
Did
Hornet
do yeah,
that
no,
Bruce
no, he
Lee.
got I'll go into that. Scott, do you know anything about the show Kung Fu?
Gene.
I watched it some when I was a kid, but at that time, the fact that they cast some white dude as an Asian character really just flew over my head. I
Yeah.
didn't.
Now here's that's not why it was really annoying. The entire show and the entire concept was Bruce Lee's idea, and I stole it from him.
Uh,
Um, he was supposed to be playing the main character.
Yeah.
It would have been probably one of the most awesome TV shows ever.
He came up with that idea. Didn't he come up with that idea um, while casting or while auditioning for a bunch of it's sort of like
Yeah,
generic
yeah,
Asian
because
type
that was
characters.
the problem is he was trying to get into Hollywood at the time,
Yeah,
and it was all just generic roles that for the most part didn't have a predominant or a main Asian character in any way. You know, it was always like the dry cleaner guy or the guy in the background who happens to be Asian and da 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 da, or
yeah,
even stereotypical villains. And he came up with a concept because he wanted to show off his culture's philosophies and ways of thinking, and he wanted to show that did that, and kung fu was the result without him.
yeah,
So that kind of rubs a lot of people raw because of that history with the show, and it's been hard to because David Carradine didn't know.
no, of course not.
He just wanted work, but it was still
Yeah,
that kind of thing where I'm always like there's always a little bit of lack of respect in my eyes for David Carradine. There's always like this a little undertone of you fucker.
And
Like that's completely unwarranted, but it's there.
and oddly enough, not the last thing David Carradine would do that would make us lose respect for him. Um,
Hey, that dude went out living.
yeah. Come on,
I couldn't help it.
cut
I'm
him some
sorry.
slack.
No, you're
That was the
you're
problem.
completely.
Yeah. Oh,
Oh,
we shouldn't
let's
have gone back. It's not the
let's
unsolicited.
get off of this road now.
Yeah, because this is
All right.
Go
not the
back to
unsolicited opinions podcast. This is the serious show where we discuss movies in a proper manner and don't make jokes about former
don't
stars.
say it.
Autoerotic asphyxiation.
Yes, please, come on.
All right,
We're better than this.
now the thing you have to remember about kung fu movies is the boom didn't really hit for it until the very late 60s
Yeah,
and the
what?
early 70s
Yeah,
because they realized it was a money making potential and they
Yeah.
could churn out these movies at a disturbing rate.
Yeah, because a lot of the people in the acting community in Hong Kong were martial art performers and
Yeah.
were like Jackie Chan, pupils of
Well,
the
yeah,
Chinese opera tradition. So yeah, a lot of
it
them
was
were.
always a part of acting and
Yeah,
theater that you actually knew a lot about self-defense because if you were in theater you were going to have to do these musicals, and even the musicals would contain large amounts of martial arts,
yeah,
so it was just a natural conversion culturally. And so you had all of these actors everywhere that you're like, yeah, you want to make some money.
yeah. And the funny thing is that because of Bruce Lee's success, they were churning out these not lookalikes, but this very energetic
No.
following.
Even before him, that's the thing. Like people always want to talk about kung fu action cinema like it began with
No.
Bruce
I'm
Lee.
not saying that, but it
And
really
no, it took off in the US.
yeah.
It was already a big thing in China in terms of, the Shaw brothers and what they were doing with movies
Yes, of
and
course.
other like, when you talk about the 36 chamber movies and even
So,
the
so
Shaolin movies and whatnot. It was already a big genre, and there were already action movie stars
Yeah,
in
but it
China that
was
were
with Bruce
big.
Lee that they had an export product. They didn't.
Yeah,
They made those movies specifically for Hong Kong audiences and for Chinese
and there were
audiences.
there were little theaters in Chinatowns all over the
Yeah,
US
yeah,
where
of course.
they would
But
show these movies, but they were like, they were cheap showings, and they only really popped up in like black communities, funny enough, and where they could afford the property to buy
yeah.
theaters and whatnot. And so there was that undercurrent of it there, but it didn't really break into the mainstream overseas until Bruce and a couple of other people.
Yeah, and
And
the
then it
fact
was,
that they had already built up this huge assembly line of
yeah,
productions
that was the
meant that
thing, is they were
they could
churning
really, really generate a lot of profit out of it.
they were churning out movies so quickly and so much that it was there was the rebranding of absolutely every other movie that they had done to bring it to the US, and then all of the new stuff.
Yeah,
So there was just this overflow in the 70s and the 80s, of just hundreds and hundreds of movies, and it's really really hard to wade through the stuff that's actually good and the stuff that's
yeah.
bad.
There
Yeah,
is always the example of movies that got cut down into the uh, Kung Pao movie, for instance. That's two semblance of or two not really great kung fu movies from the period, but
Oh yeah, because
there were a
there
lot of
were a lot of really bad kung fu
yeah, there
movies
were
where they were just
so what would y'all say was like if somebody like me who wanted to get in to watching these, and you usually want to start with your side A tracks, your really
mhm.
top notch one. What was the golden age of the Hong Kong action movie?
Oh
What is
I'd say right. In fact, I'm gonna get fucking flack for this. I know this, but after um the after Bruce Lee died, there was a flourish of like Bruce Lee wannabes, and
the
it,
clones.
yeah, yes,
It was something something Lee, something
yeah,
something.
yeah. And
Even
there
Jet
was
Li gets his name from that. That's not his actual name. Jet Li, it was just his theater name that they threw at him because they
yeah,
wanted to name him Lee because Bruce Lee was
and
dead.
he was like 16 at the time and already active.
Yeah, if you go the Shaolin movies that the government actually paid for, so because that was the thing, the government was actually paying um to have movies made because propaganda,
yeah.
and so he got famous from doing these government movies, and he still does them from time to time, and he's done them, over the decades, whenever they ask him to. That's how he, ended up as Wall Fei Hong for so long, and it was this kid, because
Yeah,
he was young, he was super young back then, and so was Jackie Chan, and he was basically a teen idol star,
yeah.
like when people like
The
that's
the
how he
thing,
started out.
yeah, and Jackie Chan wasn't. That's the thing. Jackie Chan. Everybody knew him because he was a youngest stunt coordinator in Hong Kong at the time, and he
Hmm.
was the most respected. But he was also considered to be the stunt coordinator who could have kind of made the last of the really great Bruce Lee movies very feasible because he was a great stunt coordinator. But the thing is,
It,
he nobody actually believed him in as a star until like Raymond Chow and I think it was Willie Chan got
yeah.
met with him
See,
and
the
then
thing
just sort
is
of launched his
right
career.
after Bruce died, everybody,
And
every
that's the period I want to say is
whoosh,
yeah.
Jen,
Sorry, sorry.
mid sentence, calm down.
Yes.
Every movie after Bruce Lee died had to be a Bruce Lee clone,
Yeah.
and this got really really annoying. The reason Jackie Chan basically got his spotlight was he didn't want to be Bruce Lee. And there are movies before that he did some of his early work that are just, they're Bruce Lee clone movies, and
Yeah.
they're very very cookie cutter, and they're very boring, and you the audiences didn't care about them, and nobody should really watch them, to be perfectly honest. Like the
No.
stunt work in them is really amazing, and watching the fight scenes is really really good. But he didn't get his start and his fame until
Snake and
Drunken
Eagle.
Master.
No, I would say Snake and Eagle Shadow.
No, no, no. That was still a no. It was still a cookie cutter kind of movie,
Yeah,
and
but
that
but
came after
it still had hints of Jackie
Jan.
Chan in it.
It came after Drunken Fist.
It came after Drunken Fist. I always thought that came. Drank.
Nope,
You mean
it came
Drunken
after. I mean, Drunken Master. It
Drunken
came
Master?
after
Yeah,
the first drink because that was their first working together as a movie. And the reason that movie was so important was it broke the mold of what a hero could be in China.
yeah.
And it was always this stoic, I trained at Shaolin and I'm this super stoic character that never backs down, and I might get beaten, but I will get stronger. Da, da, da. And it's
Mm,
very, very this,
yeah,
this almost European knight um kind of mantra
yeah. And it
until Jackie Chan, and he said this, he did this on purpose, was he wanted heroes that were more
had
relatable.
flaws, and when they hit somebody, it hurt them as well.
Yeah,
Which
he
was
wanted to
yeah,
not be invincible.
yeah.
And so he basically invented the kung fu comedy with a director that just said, "Hey, do what you want." And
Yeah.
at the time, he was more known for fight choreography, so he just went nuts in this movie. And that's probably
It's
it's my
yeah,
favorite Jackie Chan movie. Period. Just because you can see everything that he does in that movie permeate through the rest of his work for the
yeah,
rest of his career.
of
That's
course.
where he became Jackie Chan.
And
And
then you should also take in like Project A and Armor
yeah,
of God, which I consider to be the more European style or Western style action movies, but still
well,
very Hong
well, that
Kong.
was the thing. At that point, they were branching out, and
Yeah,
Jackie Chan, because he had such a love for early film, like when you talk about his love for Chaplin,
yeah,
Charlie Chaplin,
and also
and how
Buster
he would,
Keaton. Buster Keaton
yeah,
was
and Buster
very
Keaton,
important
he
with him.
would throw in like these these level of scenes that were straight out of silent films
Yeah,
and silent film comedies in his movies because he thought the choreography for them was amazing. That's why he has like that's where all the using inanimate objects to fight came from, because it was silly and it was interesting and it was comedy to him.
yeah, and that's also a lot of the reasons why they could have that high amount of pace because they made like 20 movies in a period of 8 years.
Yeah, dude.
They
Yeah,
were
they
they
Jesus
churned
Christ.
them out, and the thing is that you'd have. I could remember growing up in the 80s and always 80s and 90s and always having a new Jackie Chan movie to watch, like at least twice a year.
It was relentless.
It was insane, but it was fun. I loved Jackie Chan when I was growing
And
up.
then you had people trying to mimic him and whatnot,
Yeah,
and try and make careers, and you had guys who actually followed the I'm going to copy Bruce Lee route that actually somewhat got out of his shadow and had careers
yeah.
like Jet Li and Donnie Yen and
I'd say that there was one person who followed in Jackie Chan's footsteps and actually, um, I'd say was even more fitted for that role than him, and that was Sammo Hung. Sammo Hung
see
was
the thing well, they grew up together.
yeah,
That's one thing that you always hear in factoids, that Jackie Chan grew up in theater school.
yeah.
The
He
whole
was 7 when he was taken to Chinese opera school.
So
Yeah,
when people talk about, Chinese opera school, it's brutal, like martial
yeah.
arts training and dance training, and that's, where these
He
guys
got
got
his
all of
ass
these
beaten.
skills and what. Oh
He's
yeah.
He's
Oh yeah, he was a troublemaker.
yeah,
He was the class clown in a school full of theater actors, and so him and Dragon and Samo, they were basically brothers
yeah,
by being raised in the school, and they were all goofy kids. And so when they all basically got into the industry, they would work together a lot. And
yeah,
Sammo Hung is probably one of the premier directors simply because of what he's able to do with fight choreography.
yeah,
And I think that's the real reason Hong Kong cinema is so important is the problem with European and American action movies is they're too focused on cause and effect.
yeah. And not only that, they're also too focused on the face of the hero. They have to
Yeah,
show that a lot, and
they have to show the face. They have to do here's me showing a fist moving and here I'm showing it punching you.
yeah,
Well,
They they forget that there's an art to it.
yeah.
yeah,
You
and I think
can watch.
Gene probably has a question. Since he's
Yeah,
the
well, no,
outsider.
that's what I would
100%.
say. That definitely in me as a layman on these issues, that definitely in my mind has always separated the kung fu, the Hong Kong kung fu action movies from your typical Western action films, is the whole combat. It's like you get that. It's not the close in shot. It's always a little bit back, so you can
Yeah,
see
Yeah, there's
everything that's
always
going
you
on.
and that's what I love about the cinematography, where you actually show like we're talking about like 15-minute long scenes
yeah,
for some of these fights. Like the original fight, it's been lost to time. In Drunken Master was 15 minutes long,
yeah,
a 15-minute long fight with barely any cuts. And when you think about the long combinations they would do with these that they would have to master and whatnot, which is, that's you see people like Tarantino steal that where they do these like 12-minute long
Well,
steady camera shots. That's where he got that from
yeah,
because they would use these long cuts and long shots to make the world feel more like it's real and it's something that's happening in the background. And he understood the one thing that was important about Asian cinema is that a fight just isn't, an excuse to have a fight. A fight is a conversation. Like when you look at even American action movies that include martial arts, it's them fighting. It's back and forth and he's losing and now he's winning and da 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 and it's very very
which is
um
which is why you can see in many sort of Chinese fighting schools they now shout argument, rebuttal when they're exercising out in the yard. But it's the
because
Chinese version, so you
yeah.
won't understand it.
The way the fights are filmed, they're a conversation.
Yeah,
And they're sometimes more of a conversation than the actual conversations in the film.
which is
Like
why which is why plot is awful. Which plot often is sort of lacking in some of the not the classic ones, but the more generic ones.
yeah,
They story is just completely fucking absent. And yeah, I guess we have to touch on uh the more melodramatic side of Hong Kong movies, which came sort of at the late '80s, early '90s period with John Woo and Chow Yun Fat.
now
yeah.
I I want to throw this in there because I've been listening and kind of left me to my own devices for a second. So I went and did some fact checking,
Yeah.
and Jan is correct. Snake in the Eagle's Shadow came
It
out
did come first.
before.
Thank you.
Yes,
Thank
and
Oh
you.
god
they
damn it.
both
Vindicated.
to your credit, it came out the exact same year, 7 months later. And from what I'm looking at, according to IMDb, that was one of 6 films
Yeah.
Jackie Chan was in that year.
Yeah. You see what
Yeah,
I mean?
well,
Oh,
that's how fast they were coming out, and I remember seeing that in theater, like, because they would come out in theaters here, and I remember seeing Drunken Master come out before, so that might have been where.
yeah, probably. Or they're
Well,
easy to
Drunken.
mix up. They have a
Well,
lot of
they
the
both
same.
came out in '78.
Yeah,
Yeah, exactly.
yeah, Jackie Chan is old, dude. That was the thing. Like people, by the time Rumble on the Bronx actually came out and he got famous in the USA, he was already an older dude.
Yeah, and but the thing is, he was well known. He, I knew about Jackie Chan before Rumble in the Bronx came out. In Norway and in Europe in general, he was far better known than he was in the U.S. He was selling. He
Dude, he had
was
a music career.
Yeah, he was selling CDs in Norway with his
Dude, he could
music
sing.
career.
Well,
I'd argue that he could actually sing, but
I'm sorry, he has the more better version of "I'll Make a Man Out of You," so don't.
yeah, okay.
Little known factoid, like the "I'll Make a Man Out of You" song from Mulan in China, it was sung by Jackie Chan,
Yeah,
and it's better in my eyes because it's sung by fucking Jackie Chan.
yeah. But anyways, uh, the entire the John Woo sort of type of melodramatic, more focus on trying at least to stay more focused on story when he made his movies,
but
which
but
explains why he didn't have the same
emulating
productivity that as the
they were
other Rumble.
emulating American movies,
Yeah,
and his production budgets were crazy because he was trying to make American movies, these gigantic set pieces and whatnot, and it so he couldn't churn out movies as fast. And I was never really a big fan of them, to be honest, because they were too heavy on the story as opposed to not having enough in my eyes.
yeah,
Just personal opinion, because they
yeah. No, but I get that. I don't
they made
necessarily
you
agree
wait
with.
for the payout for the actual action too much.
Yeah, yeah. There was a a a huge varnish of sort of melodrama over it, like Hard Boiled. Uh,
Yeah,
still
which
had
is just
the
wire fu.
yeah, and I mean the intro to A Better Tomorrow, but Hard Boiled still ranks
They
really
were the
high with
beginning of
me
all that.
because the introduction scene to that movie and him playing jazz is just yeah, okay,
And
it's
so
that.
many guns.
Yes.
yes. I will say this as somebody who's not as clearly not as big a fan as these movies as these two. If you haven't seen Hard Boiled, you've done yourself a great disservice.
Yeah, because
it
it is action, but it takes a while to sort of gear up to it.
it's some of
A
the
Better
goofiest
Tomorrow.
gun stuff I've ever seen. And that was the thing,
Yeah,
like, if you know how to actually use guns and you've been trained, that movie is just ridiculous. It breaks every gun rule on the planet,
yeah,
all
Oh,
for the
oh,
sake of looking cool. And there was a big era where people would try stuff from that movie and stuff from his movies just because it looked cool and get fucked up. And it was
yeah.
always hilarious to hear those stories of, oh, he wanted to slide down a banister while shooting, or or using two guns at the same time. Like
Yeah,
that became a thing.
the Jesus pose.
Oh
Yeah,
God,
yeah.
the
What
T
is
pose.
the T pose? Oh God, it's. But here's the thing. I love John Woo. I love that he has his own aesthetic. I love the fact that he tries to tell more stories than your
I didn't.
usual
I
Hong
don't.
Kong movie.
I don't think his work really got good until he came over to the U.S. and started directing American movies. To be honest.
No, I actually agree. I even though I love
what?
A Better Tomorrow and I love Hard Boiled, the excluding fucking Hard Target and sort of bringing in the Yeah, Broken
And like
Arrow,
for 3
Face
years,
Off,
everything was
and
hard something.
yeah, yeah,
That was the thing about Asian cinema. As soon as something was successful,
yeah,
they cloned the shit out of it.
yeah. They churned out. I mean, Hollywood gets accused for not having enough originality. Dude,
Oh man,
Asian
they were so
movies.
much worse.
Asian movies has
The
so
gun,
much fucking
the gun
factory.
fu era of the 90s.
Oh
Jesus
God.
Christ, it was
See,
nuts.
that's why it's so good to have these, like you have Bollywood, you have Hong Kong, you have these different, I'll call them
Yeah.
schools of cinema, and they all produce different thing. Every country's got their own little feel to it. A French action film feels way different than an American
I
action
mean,
film.
I mean, the feel
You
to
know,
a Bollywood movie is just a dance number copied over a bunch of Hollywood scripts. That's
well,
Unless we're
all.
well, like
talking about Sigheim, which is the baddest motherfucker on film ever.
Oh, okay, but my point still
Sigheim.
stands. My point still stands that Bollywood movies are just they've seen a Western movie and then they feel like, oh, we can make this. Oh, I'm not gonna
Yeah,
do
they
a
remake it
racist
with musical
accent.
number.
Yeah, they remake them
Yeah,
and then
they
just
remake the
blow it.
movie and then add musical numbers to it.
Yeah, yeah. That's the recipe for Indian movies, and then you have sort of Hong Kong Japanese movies where you have the artsy scene that does do their shit, but you also have the overproductive fucking churn out of movie every second month
well,
bullshit.
Well, with Japan back then, Japanese cinema was way different in terms of tone.
Yeah,
Where with Hong Kong cinema movies and action movies, they'd go right into a fight, usually the first scene of the movie.
yeah,
Like that's how they would open movies is here's this big, beautiful fight scene to start out the movie.
yeah.
So,
Hong Kong
and
movies
Japan
were Doom, and then Japanese movies would be more.
they were more subdued and they would
Yeah,
lead up to the action and they were more story oriented.
yeah,
And when the fight scenes did happen, they were more satisfying because they had flashed out these characters. That's one of the reasons I suggest people go back and watch the Zatoichi movies. Um, love these movies. Like when you talk about samurai flicks, if you don't know about that series or look into that series, you don't know what you're talking about.
yeah.
Um, because so much of just the cinematography and the storytelling, like you could have scenes in a Zatoichi movie where nobody says a damn thing for 5 minutes, but still tell a very deep and emotional story.
Yeah.
You
Well,
know, about this wanderer and this
yeah, because
vagabond, this guy
the
that
thing
gets no
is that
respect.
Hong Kong culture was outreaching at that time, and Japanese culture was more introspect at the same time, and
Hmm.
combine that with the different types of uh cultural outlet that they have. The type of kabuki theater is
Which is
far
why
more
instead of
quiet than the Chinese opera. So
well,
which is why those movies. Hmm?
I mean, you can even see it in the Japanese horror, the slow boil, the why
Yeah,
I
yeah,
enjoy the Japanese
exactly,
horror so much because
exactly.
I don't have something screaming in
it's
my face in the first
yeah,
30 minutes.
it's not jump cuts the entire time. It's the slow build up to where
Yeah,
things go completely freaking nuts, and
and
it's
not
like
as
that with
much
their.
action in the it. They're very zen.
Mhm.
They're very quiet pictures. They're not. There's not a
There's
lot
so
of
much
things happening.
nuance to them,
Yeah, exactly. I
and
fucking
that's
love
one of the
Japanese
reasons,
movies as well.
and that's why a lot of the times, because they were so to themselves, a lot of the movies rather than come to the US were just remade
Yeah,
by American companies and other movies. Like you have, the Seven Samurai getting made into the Magnificent Seven in the US. You have, Yojimbo getting remade and all of these movies that basically have a Japanese counterpart. And you have these like, nope, Westerns didn't really portray. That's not what how the West was really. The Wild West wasn't the Wild West. The Wild West that you see on screen were Japanese movies that were converted over.
Yeah. And now they're doing it again. So The Unforgiven is getting a Japanese remake, which is kind of
Yeah,
cool.
now the Japanese are stealing American movies and remaking.
Well, no, I look at
Karma,
it this way
motherfucker.
because Unforgiven is kind of for people who like Western movies. That's kind of a pinnacle film. That is
Yeah.
a love story to the old Westerns, and the old Westerns were just the Americanized version of the samurai stories.
Yep.
And so it's just taking it back, just doing a full circle. It's a good thematically, it's great.
At least
Yeah.
the black guy won't die in the end in this one.
Yeah.
Good
You
old
could.
Morgan Freeman, our
You could.
magic Negro, our
Uh,
perpetual magic Negro. But the thing is when these films started to come to the U.S., um, you could see the production value in American films in terms of fight scenes um, get a whole lot better.
yeah.
Because at that point, it had been like what I call the Rocky action shots,
Yeah.
where you cut to somebody getting hit in the face, you cut to somebody swinging, and then getting cut to somebody hitting them, and there
The
wasn't this
entire emotion, the entire fucking winding back for the actual shot, and then
extreme
just
close-ups everywhere,
yeah,
and
yeah,
you want to. And even it's funny to see some of the newer Rocky movies where they just pull back and just show
yeah,
the
the
fight,
entire fucking thing. It's
a
cool.
fight as a story, a fight as a. Because what happened is our musicals were cool, and musicals were in, and then musicals became an unmanly thing.
Yeah,
So instead of trying to make musicals cool again for men, they just changed what musicals were.
yeah. They
Yeah.
became the
I,
Hong
I,
And
Kong
since
type of.
fighting is nothing but a dance, that's what every martial arts movie
Yeah,
is a musical disguised as
well,
you
it's a
know
ballet. It's
yeah, it's
like
a
it's a
ballet.
ballet and a play mixed together, you know. Here's some maybe spoken word section. Now for the
I
dance.
find this
Now the dance sequence.
this discussion highly unmanly, and
it,
no, but
it's why
it's
the
true.
big dance scene for a Jet Li movie is coming up because a
Yeah.
flaming circle has to happen.
Yes, that does.
Every fucking
That is.
time.
Well,
Oh
we
God.
are getting a little long in the tooth here.
Yes. Yes.
We're getting long for time. Do y'all got any recommendations, suggestions?
Uh, I
Uh,
I
I've got plenty.
I'd actually say if you wanna
New
if
or old?
uh
that's up to you, man.
I'm gonna
It's just
Oh
I'm
fuck.
gonna go mid Jackie Chan career. Right around Rumble of the Bronx, he came out with a movie called City Hunter, which is probably one of the craziest fucking fight scenes I have ever
You just
seen.
want it just because of the
The,
cross dressing Chun Li scene.
yes, it is hilarious, and I find that
There's a
amusing.
scene. Okay, he wants people to watch this because there's a scene in the movie where because Jackie Chan is goofy as fuck, and people always made fun of the fact that this scene in City Hunter was a better Street Fighter movie
Yeah,
than the actual Street Fighter movie.
yes, and that's
And
why I love City Hunter.
and it's why I can't be sexually attracted to Chun Li ever because I'm envisioning Jackie Chan in the outfit. Um, you know what? I'm gonna give some people light that don't get light, and it pisses me off that they don't get light. Donnie Yen's one of those guys that just never
Yeah,
got his
yeah,
due in the U.S. the way he deserved,
I
even though
agree.
he was in a lot of movies. He ended up playing villains a lot in Jackie Chan movies or Jet Li movies in the West, like Shanghai Nights and whatnot. But I think his best work came with the Ip Man series. Watch all three Ip Man films,
Yeah,
the trilogy. The third movie will make you cry, but I really do believe it's his best work. Um, Look into him as an actor now because he's probably one of the better guys now. Just for making good fight movies and good fight choreography and just
You
some of the stuff he's doing where he's actually having knife fights on screen and then they cut it and add these special effects in later to make it actually look like they're cutting and whatnot.
Yeah.
Oddly enough, I am also going to be recommending a film from the same individual. I don't know if you've seen it. It's a newer film. I believe the original title was Kung Fu Jungle. In America, came out as Kung Fu Killer. I
Yeah,
rather enjoyed it. It was a lot of fun. Bunch of different fighting styles in it. A
yeah.
little bit on. It's got a good little dramatic edge to it, but it's not. It's not a slow boil.
I'd have to argue that Flashpoint was better. See, that's the thing about Donnie Yen that I love is that he is a very good actor. There's a lot of guys who are doing action movies and did action, kung fu movies for a long time, but Donnie Yen is a good
Yeah.
actor,
Yeah.
and he's just as interesting in scenes that involve conversation and long dialogue as he is when he's actually fighting people.
He's Chow Yun Fat without the gun.
Ugh,
Well, well, we've
that's
got well.
As long as nobody recommended Enter the Dragon, I'm happy.
it's such a cliche thing to
Yeah,
do. It's like you got to watch
it's
Enter
the
the Dragon
it's the
when
hipster thing to say. Oh, if you want to watch kung fu movies, watch Enter the Dragon.
I don't know.
it's no, that's when Legend was a better movie, to be perfectly honest,
Yeah,
just
All
because
right.
it's him acting and
yeah,
a story. Enter the Dragon was everybody comes to an island and fights,
yeah,
and most of the story is told in freaking
Mortal
flashbacks,
Kombat.
yeah.
which is where Mortal Kombat came from.
No, but
Another recommendation for an act. You know what? I'm gonna give an actress.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Um, and I can't, and literally her name just escaped me out of my head. She was in the Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon movies, and all anybody knows her from is from those. But she
Oh,
had an extensive
Michelle Yeoh.
Michelle Yeoh.
Yeah,
Um, her whole library is a good thing to look at and have fun with, especially the Wing Chun movie,
yeah,
in which Donnie Yen is in. But she's been in the game for a long time and
yeah.
never really
She's
got attention
yeah,
in the West the way she did in the East. But she's so worth like looking into some of her stuff. Some of her stuff is super freaking goofy, and it's clear she did it for a paycheck.
yeah,
But
yeah.
she
But a
has
lot
some
of
real
it's
gems there.
really good. So, I think we've actually kind of explained. Do you feel that you've learned something, Gene, before you went
oh,
in?
I learned a lot of stuff. I learned that if I'm going to try to cut you guys off on a topic y'all are really into, I need to start earlier. No, I think overall that this was a really good introduction, and everybody got to put out some names. So if anybody's interested in this particular genre, they can listen to this episode and just jot down some of the names that got mentioned, some of the movies got mentioned, the suggestions, and really get a good start on it as a genre viewing.
Yeah. I think that's going to be it for the Tagline podcast today. It's,
Well, thank y'all for tuning in on the Tagline podcast. This has been Gene the Angry Penguin, Jan the Meerkat Monarch, and our special guest, Artivous Ira. You can find Jan and Artivous on the Unsolicited Opinion podcast on Fridays on the League of Evil channel. Thank y'all
Thanks
for
for
tuning
having
in
me.
this week. Oh, it's always fun. And next week it'll just be me and Jan again, and we will be discussing parody movies and what
yes.
went wrong.
What went wrong is they stopped using the Wayans brothers.
Oh man,
Oh
that
yeah,
is
oh
just
yeah,
a
I said it.
depressing.
I said it.
That is just.
You are gonna get so much hate. We're gonna
I
get so
don't.
much
I
hate
don't.
from Art next week. All right, guys. You have a good night.
Good night.